What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. That actually went way better than I thought.
That was really good.
Yeah.
That was smooth.
Yep, that was perfect. And we are back at Spine Farm Records, and today we are here with Puppy, all the way from London. Thank you guys for coming by.
Hey, man, thanks for having us.
Yeah, you guys did an awesome show at St. Vitus, and I was not expecting the type of crowd killing there, but...
it went, that was Billy's buddy.
You got to stop telling people about that.
He was his buddy after that. Neither was I. Yeah, they went pretty hard, man. They were throwing down.
That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I was at a deathcore show right before you guys, and
yeah?
that wasn't even as violent.
Well, we aim to please, man.
I think those guys were just really confused. They didn't know what show they were. I think they had about a bottle of rum on the way there, and they got way carried away.
They walked into the wrong show.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, this will work.
Yeah, sure.
They did the same thing at Michael Bublé last week.
Yeah.
But your new record, The Goat, is absolutely awesome. I was listening to it while I was at NAMM.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
You were in Nam?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Well, yeah.
It's still going on over there?
Yeah. That's the longest running joke ever.
Oh, shit.
But let's just give a rundown on how the making of the record's been. Who wants to go first?
I'll go. I mean,
Fire away.
yeah, it was the making of the record. Yeah, it took a while, man. Like, we kind of started writing it kind of off the back of our second EP, Volume 2, which was the first thing that got picked up by Spine Farm. They kind of re-released it. And we started writing it around then, and that came out, I think, on the Spine Farm version. That was what?
2016?
2017, I think, with a re-release that they did.
2017,
Yeah.
yeah.
So around then is when we kind of started writing it. We things kind of took a while. Like the gestation of the album was kind of long. We had to, we ended up using two different producers, things like that, which kind of extended things out a little bit. But it really worked out for the best. I think there were some songs. I think we had in our mind an album kind of beforehand, and then because of the kind of amount of time that elapsed, we were able to stockpile more. And then there were songs like "World Stand Still," which is our second single we put out from the album. Was not on the initial batch. That was kind of more of a last minute kind of thing. We were like, oh, we got this as well, and everyone, including ourselves, were really into that one. And it ended up. I think all the kind of time that went into it, the effort really paid off. I think it's the best shape the album could be in, really.
Definitely. I could tell that you guys were able to keep it interesting, because I've noticed in this record that there was many different sounds incorporated. There was real alternative sounds in there. There was real heavy metal sounds. Was this kind of like a preconceived idea to kind of make a diverse sounding record and incorporate different elements?
I mean, I think that's kind of been the kind of modus operandi of the band, I think, from the start to a degree.
I think in a sense that was the founding premise of a lot of it, really, was just to try and do a combination of our favourite things. And never, I think previously in bands we felt like, oh, maybe we can't do this. Jock and I were in a band before called Polterghost, and a band before that called Fanzine, who were slightly more kind of lo-fi, kind of indie sounding. I guess there was still heavy elements to it, but it was more leaning towards bands like Pavement, or like Weezer or Hum. And Will had been in a doom band called Throne.
Yes.
Where again, I think maybe there were some kind of limitations to where you could go sonically, I guess. I think what was really fun and exciting about starting this off was being able to be like, well, we could do like a super heavy breakdown or a mad like Dimebag style solo, and then also still have a big chorus, and then maybe do this. And I think that's kind of why we do it.
Yeah, I think those two kind of there's probably a lot in between, but those two kind of extremes. Yeah, I think we all felt maybe a little bit fenced in by the kind of scenes we were involved with, I suppose. Just like the shows we'd be playing, the kind of people immediately around us, they'd always be like, well, you can do this, but you can't do this, kind of thing. And I think, that we just kind of stopped caring a bit. I think once we let go of that, it was really creatively freeing. And also, it's been cool. That's the thing that people have connected most with in terms of, us playing in various bands over the years and stuff. Like the one time we kind of decide to not pay attention to what people are doing and just do our own thing is the thing that's connected most. So that's really kind of rewarding, I think, and pretty validating in that respect.
Yeah, and by having many different sounds, I mean, obviously, we're still at the beginning of the GOAT for a record cycle, but in the future, I think that allows for flexibility to bring in some newer elements in the future, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's always been. I mean, yeah, I think the band's definitely started to take on a bit of a kind of personality, and there is some stuff maybe where we go like, I'm not sure that kind of sounds that that puppy. But then it's funny like that. That's always changing. I think there's a bunch of songs on the album, like Black Hole, which is the first song we put out, and there's a few songs written in and around that song, which I think really set the blueprint a lot for like kind of like a. I think we found a new kind of pocket of creativity there. We're using those songs, like with that song kind of maybe being at the head of that. We mentioned World Stand Still before, bringing a bit more kind of bounce and groove into it. I think particularly when, you know, these guys play their parts on over like a guitar thing over it, and that kind of naturally happens a bit more. There's a bit more bounce to it and stuff, and I think because we had more time to rehearse for this album, that a bit of that kind of naturally came across, like more of the kind of our individual musicianship, I think.
Yeah, I would say that. And I actually interviewed a 3-piece band yesterday, completely different style, but
Nirvana?
same,
Yeah.
neck rot,
Yeah.
death metal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But so like being that you guys are a 3-piece band, I would say that does that at all contribute to your sound at all? Because it's not like you have 2 guitar players who one doing solos, one focusing on the rhythm. It's like I would say that being a 3-piece kind of allows for every member to kind of take the spotlight, right?
For sure, yeah, you've got to fill more room, like especially with Will's bass, like, you know, that's got to take up a lot more room
The
than.
long bass, it takes up quite a lot of room.
Yeah. We can't fit
Yeah,
it back
that's
of
why we
cabs.
bought a Rickenbacker, as it's one of the biggest basses.
Yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
bring an upright bass next.
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Yeah, that's phase
Yeah,
2, album
I
2.
got my eye on those.
Yeah,
they're
they're
great.
good. I
Got
like
them.
them.
Yeah.
I like them. Yeah, a little bit of swing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna click.
Yeah, but no, you're definitely right. And with Billy's drums as well, I think that's such a big element of the personality of the band. And like, although I'm a fan of bands with 2 guitarists, like, practically speaking, whenever I've kind of tried it in the past, it's always, I don't know, if there's like a lead guitarist, they're always trying to shoehorn in a lead line everywhere, and you're just, sharp, man. Like, it's kind of nice that we can all like, fill that space.
I remember we
ourselves.
used to worry about that a lot initially, about the like going down to a solo and there being no like guitar thing behind it, especially live. Like you can overdub. I don't think it's in the world if you overdub that on the record or whatever, but we used to worry about that. But it was quite liberating. I think a lot of like Pantera stuff, it will just drop down, so it's just bass and drums.
Yeah,
like,
and it's nice. And like Van Halen stuff as well, like.
And
where
even like
it'll
Led
just-
Zeppelin, sometimes they'll have.
Yeah,
that, and,
It'll
like,
just be like, there's a kind of honesty there, which is quite cool, and that space can be kind of nice. Like, you're you know what I mean? You're like.
No, totally, yeah.
Yeah.
It's initially, there's something almost quite, it's quite endearing in a way, because
Yeah.
there's an honesty to it and there's a rawness to it, and it allows the solo to
shine.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. That's
Snap.
it. Yeah.
Well, and also for the style that you guys play, and I mean it like as a compliment, because like you guys have like a bridge between like, you know, classic hard rock, you have some metal, you have some alternative. Like I almost feel like a second guitar player wouldn't exactly be necessary. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not like you're playing like
Drop plays
Cannibal
enough for
Corpse where you need like 17 guitar.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's
layovers.
kind of fun as well. I think like I really like the idea of writing for the format of a 3-piece band. I think like it keeps the guitar parts kind of interesting. You have to be a bit more kind of economical with what you play, and go like you do stuff like using different parts of the guitar for different bits. You know, like you might move up it for a chorus to get a different like texture and tonality and stuff, and like, you know, go back low for a riff or whatever.
Also, utilise the vocal harmony thing a lot more than you might otherwise.
That's
if
true,
you're
yeah.
3-piece, like,
Yeah.
make the most of every possible bit of your arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the reason that like vocal harmonies are such a big part of our band is because we know that as in the format we are, that's something we can reproduce live to a degree. That's something that we can, and in the studio it's something that we have, you know, up our sleeve. Like none of us are keyboard virtuosos, you know. And it seems weird to well, I can't speak for all of us, but it would seem weird to, you know, when you get into the studio, you'd be like, okay, we've got to make the chorus sound big, we've got to whack a keyboard on there and stuff like that. And I think it's also a pretty good litmus test for a song. You know, if you're playing it as a 3-piece band, and it sounds good in a kind of stripped down way, then the song's good. Like I think, in my experience, anyway, whenever we've had to, or in previous bands I've been in, when you're just whacking everything on it to try and like make a chorus pop, it's probably not that good a chorus. Do you know what I mean? It's like you should be able to do it in a kind of basic way, and that's why, you know, again, bands like Weezer and stuff is such a remain a big influence, like their first couple of albums, because it was pretty Spartan, like what they did. You know, obviously they're 2 guitarists, but yeah,
I mean,
with
you got like
harmonies
all
and
4 of them, right? Like singing.
yeah,
harmonies
like
as well.
barbershop style harmonies and stuff. But it's, yeah, again, there's a there's a rawness there to it as well, which is and it again, it's so powerful. The chorus is like pop in the right
Yeah.
way and all that kind of thing.
I would say that there's some bands where less is definitely more in a way,
Uh-huh.
and while I think your music has so many different elements, it's in the end it's coming from you three guys. So
Yeah.
and I'd imagine that makes it very easy to replicate live too.
Yeah, that's always been a big thing for us.
You'd imagine it would be easy.
We actually find it very
For
difficult.
accomplished musicians, it would probably be quite easy.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's something we've always had in the back of our minds as well, is wanting to be able to do that, like, and wanting the live show to be fairly representative of the album and vice versa.
Yeah. Now, when I watched you guys live at the St. Vitus show, one thing I've really noticed is there are some bands out there that are a little more rhythm driven or have more of an emphasis on melody or are all about riffs or something like that. I've noticed that you guys, everything was equal. You guys had a great rhythm that added catchiness. You had a great melody that supported it. Is there something that kind of comes first, though? Do you like have to lay down a rhythm to write over it, or do you sometimes have a melody that you work around?
Kind of, yeah.
I think-
either or, really. Like,
Jock is like the primary songwriter. He kind of does it to himself, really. I think that maybe they come to life a little bit more later, but I think to that effect, the founding premise of a lot of them is like, yeah, like a kind of like a pop song, really, like a strong, I guess a strong melody and strong structure is probably where you start, right? Because it's certainly not.
Was it riff? Do you start with a riff?
yeah, kind of. A bit of both. Yeah, I think if you can get like a kind of like a loop going of like a good riff, an interesting verse and a chorus, and loop that back around, like I'm like, okay, I've got the kind of basis of a song here. I mean, there are a couple of times on this album where we stepped outside that formula a little bit more. There's a track on there called Bathe in Blood, which doesn't quite have that. There's a song there called Nightwalker as well, which is more kind of it hasn't got the riffy kind of element to it. So we step outside that sometimes, but for the most part, yeah, that's kind of, I'd say like a song like Black Hole or Poor Me or World Stand Still are kind of probably fairly typical Puppy songs. Maybe Demons as well, like Entombed, that kind of thing. And it's because there's that balance between like the big riff and then the melodic chorus and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, even though you're in the band, so shut me up. I don't think you guys have that. Where like a song could sound too much like a Puppy song. You know what I mean? I feel like experimentation is kind of like key for you guys.
Yeah, man. I think talking about those two songs again, Nightwalker and Bathe in Blood. I think those were two that we were really kind of proud of because it was fun to kind of go off piste a little bit more, and maybe try. I guess, going like, rather than going, well, if it's a Puppy song, it has to have X, Y, and Z, going like, well, can you subtract that? And it still has that quality to it, and kind of playing around with that balancing. I think that was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think those two are pretty good examples of that.
Definitely. And I have two more questions for you guys.
Yeah.
One is because in addition to seeing you guys at that live show, I mean, just your stage presence and the energy that you demonstrated was absolutely incredible. I would say that the audience was really able to kind of. I felt like you guys fed off the audience, and the audience fed off you guys.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
what I've noticed.
Oh,
so when
thanks.
you're playing live versus like in a practice space or in a studio making music, is it a completely separate like mind frame or process behind your instrument?
Yeah.
Yeah,
would
I mean,
say,
it's more. Yeah, for me. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I have to kind of like psych myself up for it a bit. I mean, more like if we're in a studio, I don't really care. Like we can do it again. Like no one's there.
I think the intricacies, certainly personally, of a lot of the performance goes out the window a little bit as well. It becomes a lot more. I don't think I twiddle my sticks and throw shit around in the studio.
You do it in practice, don't you?
Do it in practice.
Yeah.
But I guess the dynamic is so different. And as you said, like coming out on when was it? Tuesday night, Wednesday night.
Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. No, it was
Wednesday
Wednesday night.
night.
Sorry.
St. Vitus, because there was immediate reaction, like immediate energy in that room that we couldn't help but feed off, And if you come out and everyone's dead quiet and like has their arms folded, which they have every right to, especially with us, like Jesus, but like, then you respond totally differently, and you can't help but do that. And I think that's kind of what's really fun about shows.
Yeah. It is kind of nerve. You're flying by the seat of your pants a little bit as well. Like something might break. You might forget the part. Like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of high stakes, and it's exciting. It's also, I guess, pretty nerve-wracking. And I think we've kind of still learning to kind of be a good live band. I mean, like in that respect, in terms of like putting on a show and stuff. It's a really interesting kind of like line you have to walk. I think you know, we've been lucky to go out and tour with some really amazing bands, and it's you kind of go like, wow, they're able to just turn this thing on and like, you know, like work the crowd and stuff like that, and you always learn a bit, I think.
Definitely.
But then you also want to be yourself as well. You don't want to you don't want to be. I think people can pick up on that kind of being a bit fake and a bit naff or a bit.
You don't want to like
forced.
portray a character. You just want to.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting balance act, but I think we're always working away at it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd imagine also because playing live, you know, if you go to a studio or a practice space, you're in the same location most of the time, whereas every venue is different. So you'll have different back lines, different sound guys.
Suddenly something's further away, like, you know, all that kind of stuff, and like when you're supporting other bands as well, like they'll say like, you guys got to set up here, and it's like a strip that wide in front of the stage where you're like, okay, I guess we're like, I'm gonna have to stand on Billy's shoulders for this one. Like, you know, like
And that did happen.
That did happen. Yeah, it was a great show.
I wish I saw that show.
But yeah, like just stuff like that, rolling with those punches and stuff. But I think it's all kind of character building and stuff. You can't being out of your comfort zone, I suppose, is pretty good. I think.
Yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you, and when I met you at Vitus, I told you I had to bring this up. Being a band from London, I mean, there's so much history with music there. I consider it a music capital with all the different styles and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But
Beastie Boys, the Ramones,
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses,
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses.
all of them from London.
Well, Slash was born in London.
He was, wasn't he? No
Technically,
shit,
so-
you got me there.
I think it was
yeah,
Stoke
yeah.
on Trent actually.
Well, he was born in Hampstead, or
Hampstead.
Hampstead. Did I say it? Yeah.
Hampstead. Okay, I know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, but being kind of like a newer band coming from that scene, is there still a great happening scene in London, or are you a band that kind of has to go outside your city, outside your scene, rather to kind of get your name out there a little bit more?
I could be wrong, but I think London's so big and so diverse, and there's so much going on. That there's little pockets of maybe recognizable things, I suppose. But for me, when you go like smaller shows and stuff, and kind of like, you know, grassroots kind of gigs and that, it seemed to be a pretty broad mix of stuff. Like if you're talking guitar bands, for example, it was pretty wide ranging. It was just kind of, there was, you know, I wouldn't say there was a definitive sound or anything like that. There'd be, you know what I mean? Like,
I think the infrastructure's there. That if people are digging it, there will always be that network of support and people who will come down to shows and stuff. But certainly, maybe this is just something that's amplified more because of like how, I don't know, annoying our sound is or whatever like that. But I think we probably don't quite fit in with a lot of what the potential scenes might be. We're not really heavy enough to sit in like a hardcore or a metal scene, and I think we're probably too heavy to sit in a lot of indie scenes. And I don't know. I don't know whether that's, I don't know, post-internet or whatever. Certainly in a big city like London, whether the scenes happen in the same way that they used to, which is probably a shame, really. But it's certainly not anything that I've ever felt a part of.
yeah, I agree.
I think we got friends who do music. We were talking about this earlier. You know, like from our school, and some of our closest friends. That one of them plays in this indie band who are doing a lot of really cool stuff. Another guy is doing like this kind of electronic like dance thing, and that feels a bit like a scene to me because we can get together and talk about like playing shows and recording and stuff. But like we're aesthetically and sonically like miles apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll just identify with different things. I mean, you're talking about being a kind of post-internet sort of age, like, I guess, but even before that, like our relationship, you know, me and Billy grew up together, and our relationship with music was always kind of digging through old CDs, like, you know, like that we find at Billy's dad's house and stuff like that, and be like, oh, this, you know what I mean? It all seemed very personal. Like it wasn't like this was being shared with like a bunch of other kids that were all listening to the same stuff necessarily. And I think that aesthetic's carried through into what we do now. You know, what we do now, it's like you got to keep your head down. You're like, well, I think this is really cool, and I think this in our head makes sense. You can, you know, this feeds into this, feeds into that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been hugely the kind of the lack of us fitting in anywhere is really kind of informed how we sound.
Well, what I've noticed about London is, like, you take, like, a place like Sweden, probably known for death metal. You take Norway, known for black metal. New York is mainly known for hardcore. So, like, but I feel like with London, I mean, obviously the Beatles, but then you have the new wave of American heavy metal, but then you have bands like Bullet for My Valentine, and then Dragon Force, and Cradle of Filth, and While She Sleeps, and so many other bands. Like, I feel like that London's a very diverse scene. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even those bands you mentioned, I mean, I'm not sure how many of them are from London. I think
Bullet for My Valentine's is from Wales. I think.
Yes,
So-
yeah. But then, so when you know, if you want to go broader into the UK, then yeah, it gets very diverse. But again, I think London is such a, it's so, you know, everyone's kind of on top of each other, and it's so like, yeah, it's so busy and constantly changing that you know, there will be like maybe the odd venue where you're like, oh, if I want to go see like some cool like garage psych rock band, like this promoter puts on a night every now and then or whatever.
It's funny because I think especially when we were growing up, like when we were, and I guess when you would have just been in London as well, like there was a huge scene, I guess, in London with bands like the Horrors and that whole psych thing that was around that.
Yeah.
And that was the same time really that like grime was doing a lot of stuff. Grime was like this kind of form of like UK hip hop, like post garage music. That was such a scene. Like that was specific
that's
to
true.
some certain bars and some certain housing estates and certain boroughs of London. And that's like the best example of a scene I can think of. Like it's like,
Everyone feeds into each other.
totally.
And, like,
People
yeah.
would go to a certain night and they'd hear this one thing, and then that would get shared. Like there'd be a tape of that, and then people would hear that, and you'd all meet in the same. So I mean, we weren't part of that obviously, but I think we were about 12 at the time.
Yeah.
And very very geeky, but I think there are still pockets of it. They're just I don't know. They're not ones that we kind of would encounter. Like
I mean,
doing the kind of sound that
you
we
probably have more experience of it. Like I guess being from a kind of like your kind of Slowly Doom
Mm-hmm.
thing, you're probably more plugged into a network of bands that did that. And
Yeah.
Part of a kind of scene, I guess.
Yeah. Definitely. What was
Yeah.
the question? We've been talking about scenes for a long time, but I can't remember what the exact
We're
question.
talking about the scene in Gone with the Wind,
Yeah, yeah.
where
Right.
Clark Gable says, "Frankly, my dear, we're gonna need a big boat."
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Do you remember that bit?
Yes,
Very
because.
good.
And then the gorilla climbs up the Empire State Building,
Yes.
I cried.
and then it gets chased by a boulder
Yeah.
down this cave.
It escapes at the last minute. Yeah. And
Yeah.
he leaves his hat.
He,
And he
the,
has to- the
he
gorilla
has
leaves
to
his
pull
hat.
it back, and it's a wizard's hat.
Yeah.
And then
it's a
obviously-
sorting hat, and then he
yeah.
gets put into Slytherin.
Yeah.
But he convinces it to let him go into
You
Yeah.
are
Gryffindor.
talking, of course,
And he
about
says-
the movie Donkey Kong Jones and the Temple of Kush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the only scene
I
I've
have
ever
a
felt.
So hopefully that answers your question.
No, it definitely did. So
Brilliant.
before we go, I want to thank you guys for your time today. Hope you're
Amen.
enjoying New York.
We are,
So
man.
much.
Yeah.
So much.
Really, really psyched to be here and be speaking to people like yourself. Thank you. For
Yeah,
having us.
of course. I hope you check out, you got to check out all the metal spots like Duff's or Lucky 13. You were just at Vitus. So,
Yeah. We got to do a little guided tour. Make it write them down for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be very cool.
Absolutely. Is there just anything else with Puppy you would like to promote in terms of tours
Uh,
or that
we're
you're
go-
allowed to talk about?
We're going to
obviously?
be out at South by Southwest next week. We're playing on the Wednesday and the Friday, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
The Wednesday we're at Dirty Dog.
Dirty Dog.
I think it's called. Friday we're somewhere else. I can't remember the name, but
Yeah.
it'll be on our Instagram,
Social media
on our
platforms.
all our social media platforms.
Yeah, we'll announce that.
Bebo, MySpace.
Yeah, all the big ones.
Craigslist.
Yeah. So
that's about
yeah,
it.
come down if you're around, and then just listen to the Goat, our new album.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys
Thanks,
so much.
man.
Thanks,
Everybody,
buddy.
we are here with Puppy. Be sure to pick up The Goat out on Spine Farm Records if you haven't already. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.
Peace.